The August 15, 2024 meeting of the Woodbridge Township Board of Education will please come to order. Roll call, Mr. Secretary.
Ms. Bourdain.
Here.
Mr. Delapietro.
Here.
Mr. Mohammed.
Here.
Ms. Perez.
Here.
Mr. Treebwasser.
Here.
Mr. Velez.
Here.
And Mr. Harris.
Here. Mr. Secretary, as required by the Sunshine Law, please read the notice of meetings.
Thank you, Mr. President. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this Act, the Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted as follows. On January 25th, 2024, emailed to the Home News Tribune, the Star Ledger, and the Municipal Clerk's Office, posted in Ross Street School Number 11 and the Board of Education Administration Building, also published on the school district website.
Thank you, Mr. Wolferman. Ms. Bourdain, please read the closed session statement, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. In compliance with the Sunshine Law, the board must go into closed session in order to discuss subjects exempted from the public portion of our meeting. The discussions to be held in closed session will be regarding personnel matters, and the board will receive attorney-client advice. Any information regarding the closed session discussion will be released to the public when the reasons for discussing these matters in closed session no longer exist.
Thank you, Ms. Bourdain. I have a motion by Ms. Bourdain. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Ms. Bourdain, seconded by Mr. Treebwasser. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Carried. All right, the board will retire to closed session. We'll be out as soon as possible. Thank you. Please rise for the salute to the flag and a moment of silence, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag.
Flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, do I have a motion to reconvene?
So motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion, I have a motion by Mr. Treebwasser, seconded by Mr. Delapietro. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, carried. Roll call, Mr. Secretary.
Ms. Bourdain.
Here.
Mr. Delapietro.
Here.
Mr. Mohammed.
Here.
Ms. Perez.
Here.
Mr. Treebwasser.
Here.
Mr. Velez.
Here.
Mr. Harris.
Here. Will someone please make a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meetings?
Motion.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Are there any additions or corrections? Seeing none, I have a motion by Mr. Treebwasser, seconded by Mr. Velez. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, carried. Mr. Secretary, please state for the record any notices of bids or proposals received by the board.
Mr. President, the following were opened for the 2024-2025 school year. On August 6, 2024, RFP 25-07 for high-impact tutoring for grades 3 through 12. August 6, 2024, RFP 25-08, elementary math consultants. And August 7, 2024, RFP 2509, professional learning full-time consultant, middle school mathematics.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Wolferman. Dr. Massimino, please state for the record the superintendent's reports for the month of July 2024.
Mr. Harris, I present the reports of the attendance officers.
Thank you, Dr. Massimino. The Woodbridge Township Board of Education welcomes and encourages active, productive, and respectful participation by members of the public and seeks to protect the First Amendment rights of those who engage in the exercise of free speech at this Board of Education meeting. Members of the public are requested to express themselves in a civil manner with the due respect for the dignity and privacy of those whose legal rights may be impacted. The public is now invited to speak regarding the agendas being presented this evening. When you come to the microphone, please provide your name and the section of the township in which you reside, along with the specific agenda and item number you wish to discuss. As per Regulation 1100D, comments must be limited to no more than 5 minutes. No response will be given until you have completed your opportunity to speak. Anybody wishing to speak on any of the agenda items, please come to the microphone. Okay. Seeing none at this moment, superintendent's agenda. Dr. Massimino, do you have any recommendations for us?
Yes, Mr. President, I have 9 items to present to the board this evening.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Massimino. I have a motion by Dr. Massimino.
So,
Do I have a second?
I make a motion to move the superintendent's agenda.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. I have a motion by Mr. Treebwasser, seconded by Mr. Velez. Are there any comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, roll call, Mr. Secretary.
Ms. Bourdain.
Yes.
Mr. Delapietro,
Yes.
Mr. Mohammed,
Mr. President, I abstain on item number 9 in terms of, in the name of Rutgers, and yes on all other items.
Ms. Perez,
Mr. President, I also will be abstaining on item number 9 in the name of Rutgers, yes to all other items.
Mr. Treebwasser,
Yes.
Mr. Velez,
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes. Thank you very much. Communication, Policy, and Planning Agenda, Mr. Mohammed.
Mr. President, the Communication, Policy, and Planning Committee, on recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, presents the following 8 items. I move for the adoption of the foregoing.
Thank you. I have a motion by Mr. Mohammed. Do I have a second?
Second?
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Mohammed, seconded by Ms. Perez. Are there any comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, roll call, Mr. Secretary.
Ms. Bourdain,
Yes.
Mr. Delapietro,
Yes.
Mr. Mohammed,
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Treebwasser.
Yes.
Mr. Velez.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes. Curriculum, Extracurricular Activities, and Technology Agenda, Ms. Bourdain.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Curriculum, Extracurricular Activities, and Technology Committee on recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools and the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction presents the following 15 items. I move for the adoption of the foregoing.
Thank you, Ms. Bourdain. I have a motion by Ms. Bourdain. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, a motion by Ms. Bourdain, seconded by Mr. Delapietro. Any comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, roll call, Mr. Secretary.
Ms. Bourdain,
Yes.
Mr. Delapietro,
Yes.
Mr. Mohammed,
Yes.
Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Treebwasser,
Yes.
Mr. Velez,
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes. I did want to just say, I see we have a lot of new guests this evening. If you haven't already had a chance, back by the wall there, we have a copy of this agenda before us if, in the event you wanted to follow along. Just want to make sure no one was lost as I see many new faces, and thank you for joining us as well. All right, we move on to the next agenda, Finance and Insurance Agenda. Mr. Treebwasser.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Finance and Insurance Committee, on recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools and the Business Administrative Board Secretary, presents the following 11 items. I move for the adoption of the foregoing.
Thank you. We have a motion by Mr. Treebwasser. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Treebwasser, seconded by Mr. Delapietro. Any comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, roll call, Mr. Secretary.
Ms. Bourdain,
Yes.
Mr. Delapietro,
Yes.
Mr. Mohammed,
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Treebwasser,
Yes.
Mr. Velez,
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes. Buildings and Grounds Agenda, Ms. Perez.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Buildings and Grounds Committee, on the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools and the Business Administrator Board Secretary, presents the following 2 items. I move for the adoption of the foregoing.
Okay, I have a motion by Ms. Perez. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Ms. Perez, seconded by Mr. Mohammed. Any comments or questions from the board? All right, I did want to just add one under the agenda, Buildings and Grounds. I want to thank the administration, your entire team, as well as Woodbridge Township. Yesterday, many of my colleagues joined me at the groundbreaking for the new, or I keep saying that, it's not the new School Forum 5, it's the significantly renovated, but will feel like new School Forum 5 located in Avenel. I was part of the successful 2020 referendum, as well as last year's very quick referendum question. Construction has begun. It'll take about 2 years. And Dr. Massimilian and I spoke that Ms. Panko, the principal, will be communicating some changes and logistical items pertinent to the flow of traffic and the student presence on the school grounds very shortly in the coming weeks. So please stay tuned for that, and please follow along with the construction. You as taxpayers are paying for this project. We're really excited about it, and pleased once again to have the support of the public to modernize our school facilities. Roll call, but did we already do our roll call? No. All right, roll call. Thank you.
Ms. Bourdain,
Yes.
Mr. Delapietro,
Yes.
Mr. Mohammed,
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Treebwasser.
Yes.
Mr. Velez.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes. Dining and Transportation Agenda, Ms. Perez.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Dining and Transportation Committee, on recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools and the Business Administrator Board Secretary, presents the following 3 items. I move for the adoption of the foregoing.
Excellent, thank you. We have a motion by Ms. Perez. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion by Ms. Perez, seconded by Mr. Delapietro. Any comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, roll call, Mr. Secretary.
Ms. Bourdain,
Yes.
Mr. Delapietro,
Yes.
Mr. Mohammed.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Treebwasser.
Yes.
Mr. Velez.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes. Personnel agenda, Mr. Del Pietro.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Personnel Committee, on recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools and the Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources, presents the following 31 items. I move for the adoption of the foregoing.
Thank you, Mr. Dela Pietro. We have a motion by Mr. Dela Pietro. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Dela Pietro, seconded by Ms. Perez. Any comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, roll call, Mr. Secretary.
Ms. Bourdain.
Yes.
Mr. Delapetro.
Yes.
Mr. Mohammed.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Treebwasser.
Yes.
Mr. Velez.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes. We have Mr. Silvestro here. Any legal updates for us?
Nothing for tonight,
All right.
Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Is there any old business that should be brought before the attention of the board? How about any new business? No? I did want to just, this is a newer, last month, we passed a resolution to change the October board meeting. Typically, it's held on a third Thursday of each month. The meeting will be moving one day earlier to Wednesday, October 16. It's no longer Thursday, October 17. It's now Wednesday, October 16. That will be updated in my board president column in the Woodbridge Corner newspaper, and it's also been legally advertised, thanks to Ms. Lanigan. Thank you very much. All right, no other new business? Seeing none? All right, we're moving on. This is the open public portion here. We will now open the meeting for public comment. If you wish to say something, please come to the microphone, provide your name and the section of the township in which you reside for the record. Again, members of the public are requested to express themselves in a civil manner with due respect for the dignity and privacy of those whose legal rights may be impacted. Please limit your comments to no more than 5 minutes in accordance with Regulation 1100D. No response will be given until you have fully completed your comments so as not to interrupt your 5-minute opportunity to speak. So we have many guests today. Please come to the microphone. Anybody? Yes, come on down. Just your name and the section of town you reside. Oh, come all the way up to the microphone. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Welcome. Neil Patel, Edison.
Oh, all right. Well, all right. Welcome.
All right. My name is Neil Patel, and I'm a freshman at J.P. Stevens High School in Edison. I'm the co-founder of the Learning Circle, a 501c3 certified nonprofit organization that promotes peer-to-peer learning. We are dedicated to helping students from low-income families and those in need of extra academic support. My other co-founder, Ria Patel, is a rising junior at Woodbridge Academy Magnet School. She could not be here today as she has a final exam at Middlesex College. Over the past 2 years, we've successfully run programs like the Homework Hub, a summer math program, and an AP Biology program. These initiatives have made a real difference in the lives of many students by providing them with the tools and the guidance they need to succeed. This summer, we had the privilege of running our AP Bio Enrichment Program in the Edison School District with the full support of Superintendent Dr. Eddie Aldarelli and Academic Director Mr. Richard Cohen. They graciously provided us with classrooms, and the program was a great success. If you would like, you can check with them for a reference on how our program has positively impacted students. As we start with the new school year, I'm here to ask for your support in launching a similar math enrichment program for students from low-income families and those in need within this district. We believe that by focusing on elementary and middle school students, we can build a strong foundation in math that will set them up for future success. To make this program possible, we need your help in spreading the word. We're asking for your support in marketing this program across the district, especially in elementary and middle schools. By working together, we can reach the students who need this program the most and ensure that they have the opportunity to thrive academically. We have many Learning Circle volunteers who will be running this program. I'm accompanied by a few of them, and I would like to introduce them here today.
Hi.
Good evening. I am an incoming junior in John F. Kennedy Memorial High School in Woodbridge, and yeah, that's about it.
Hi, my name is Ahan Kumar. I'm a freshman at J.P. Stevens High School. I used to teach at my local elementary school for Math Club, and I'm a proud member of the Learning Circle.
Hi, my name is Aditya Gala. I'm a rising freshman in JP Stevens High School in Edison, and I was introduced to this program by my friend Neil. I've always been a fan of peer-to-peer learning, and especially through math, as I've been a part of Math Club for 2 years, representing the school in various different competitions. I've found a passion in math and teaching my friends peer-to-peer, as I find that this helps them so much more, and alongside to learning from teachers. Peer-to-peer learning is a very friendly environment, and students feel safe sharing things with their peers that they might not be comfortable telling their teachers. So I feel like Learning Circle has a big impact on students, and it's very beneficial for them, and I'm excited to run this and help run this program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time and consideration. I'm excited about the potential impact we can make together. I'd like to ask Dr. Massimino for a meeting next week so we can provide the details about the enrichment program. Thank you.
Thank you. Doc, you want to take the first bite? Or,
Well, I'm the one meeting with him, so yes.
well, I mean to respond. Yeah. Well, let me jump in. I've already taken it back. First of all, thank you for what you do. What was it, 5 of you, 4 of you?
Four.
Thank you very much for what you do and what you've done in Edison. And we can't make any decisions up here as individual board members, but what we'll do, we'll have you, if Dr. Massimino is interested, take a meeting. If nothing else, we certainly want your contact information. If you could leave that with Nicole. We have to talk about these kind of things at the committee level. It's a different proposal I don't think I've heard in my 12 years. So let's take your information and we'll go from there. Doc?
Thanks for letting me talk now, Mr. Harris.
You're welcome.
So if you'd like to meet with Mr. Harris, you got a little preview as to how often you'll get to jump in there. If you can leave your contact information, I'm happy to set up a meeting. I'd love to talk to you about it. I would like to also include my colleague, just so I can do an introduction before we meet, Mr. Pastorino. He's the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction, so he would be the other administrator I'd like to invite. If you leave your information, I'll touch base with you on Monday, if that's okay.
Yeah.
And we can set something up during the week.
Okay.
Does
Yeah.
that work?
Yeah, thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
I have to tell you this, though. I've been doing this a long time, and I worked in a high school before I got into administration. Kudos to all of you. I think it takes a lot of courage to come up. You're from JP Stevens. This is an outside school district. You don't know your way around, and I don't know that you could have presented any better. You present yourself like a very impressive young group of scholars, and the presentation in of itself has my attention. So thank you for coming out today, and I look forward to talking to you next week.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's right. Anybody else wishing to speak this evening? Okay.
You know, I'm going to mention my grandfather. The world belongs to young people.
That's right.
We all should be proud of people like that to stand up. A lot of people have choice to even express that because even they're hungry, they won't speak up. But that's very impressive. That's what it's all about. A couple of reasons I'm over here today, which I'm really proud. I kind of lived in Evanel, about school 4 and 5. It's going to be redone, which is great. I always said the school should be with our little people. Your young kids, small kids are. They shouldn't be bused. It should be close to the houses, as close as possible. But again, my question would be, I know it's going to be more classrooms, more everything else. How long before they become kind of overcrowded again? I mean, how can we expect in the future again even more and more? I think schools should be built because this is growing city, Woodbridge. I mean, it's not a confined, this is it. It could grow. It's taking more property, going to go higher. So we're going to have more people. So I think all the schools should be built for future, not just for next 5 years, 10 years, that's my question. Of course, school center will be school 10 in the whole plan. How many years we get out of it before we say, okay, we have to build another school? But again, most important would be, I think the whole plan is a problem because there's a lot of properties, but you take Evanel, it's a houses around. And I know we can take the property eminent domain, and I would encourage in the future, if any of those properties would be for sale, especially in Evanel, the school board would kind of try to acquire them, not to force the people out, but of course you don't want to sell it. And of course, you know, in future they could be utilized for the expansion. Great job, thank you. But again, you know some of those people, I know some of those people. We know we got a security in the schools, all the schools. And my question would be, is there any security, so-called law department or any military department or, I don't care, National Guard or something? And I understand most of those people are kind of retired. Because they're retired and they work off, they're not employed as a matter, whether they would do state troopers or police or whatever it is. Do they have any training for every year, like police does, the federal government does, even the CIA, even the, you know, whatever it is? Do those people have a training for every year? Because you're not just dealing with the kids, you're dealing with a young man today. Today, the students in 2 months become soldiers. What do the soldiers do? So say to those high school kids, you know, there's kids, we call them kids or students, but tomorrow we are young men, we should be proud. They look at those boys over here, they do men's work. So we gotta have a people, not so, okay, it's a side job, it's a thing. Those people should be up to physically, whatever training they need, like professionals to do their job. And at what point, if there's a, for God's sake, I hope it's not big or complete emergency, at what point can they call for additional help if they can handle it? Who do they call? Do we have a communications open to them, like with any, because it's important, kids are important. So if there's any kind of a thing that they can handle it, there should be no any obstacles that they could not get to the either Woodbridge Police Department or State Police or something like that. Like I said, we got to think for tomorrow, not just for today. So that's all I want to say today, and that's my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Batarik. Dr. Massimino, this is really his expertise. If you could speak to
Sure.
our security officers.
So I'll answer your first question, Mr. Vitarik. Obviously, the Avenel School 4 and 5 is from a referendum that precedes my superintendency. I will say I think the board has done an excellent job in terms of trying to forecast the future, whether it's looking at demographic studies or population studies, to ensure that the money that is being spent on schools is being spent on schools that's going to have kids in it. 4 and 5 is, I mean, I don't know if you've driven past, but it's, I think, the oldest school that we currently have. So I think a lot of it is upgrades. The additional space is obviously always, like I tell everybody, you don't have to have a packed school, but you'll use every inch of the school if it's feasible and it's done right. So I think as a board and as an administration, we are in constant dialogue in terms of what the schools look like. We look at the numbers all the time. We have principals there that we talk about class size. We have a whole human resource department. So those are things that we look at on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis to see what it looks like. Obviously, class size is something that we try to keep an eye on, staffing. So to your point, yes, it is something that we pay close attention to and try to follow the trends so that we can predict them, right? We want the schools ready for when we have an influx. Unfortunately, we don't have a crystal ball, so we can go off the data that we have and we do the best we can with it. With regard to the security officers, when we wrote the job description, the one thing in there that we all agreed on was you had to have graduated from a PTC, and that's a police training commission. They're statewide. That is what you have to go through to become a police officer. So our feeling was if you had gone through the training to be a police officer and you're retired, you don't forget that training. If I retire 6 months later, I didn't lose that training. I still had that training. I had those accreditations, the CPR training, understanding 2C law. We put a lot of other things in there as well, but the PTC was the big part. If you didn't graduate from a PTC, you were not eligible to become one of our school security officers. They were given uniforms. There's regulations with regard to their ASL holsters, which is a type of holster that keeps the weapon secure. Like I said, they're in uniform. It clearly says Woodbridge Township on the front, security on the back. They are all given radios. They all have devices so that, if they need to look things up and have access to the cameras, they can. So we equipped them with everything we could so that they're ability to be security officers met the need, right? We want them to be able to respond quickly. We want them to be able to reach out to the principal on the radio or, our security coordinator, the roving patrols that we have. We gave them full access to everything so that in the event of, any kind of an emergency, God forbid, they were prepared to act accordingly with the resources needed to do so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak? Mr. Lund?
Mr. Lund, Hope Lawn, feels like it's been a long time. I had time to grow a beard in the interim.
There we go.
Couple things, I just want to see if I guess this would probably be a lawyer or legal question, but in 2021, 6 parents filed PPRA complaints. It protects public school parents and children. It's the Pupil Rights Amendment, Protection of Pupil Rights Amendment. They filed complaints with the U.S. Department of Education challenging Cedar Grove School District's failure to provide prior notice and obtain parental consent before administering intrusive surveys. And I've spoken to a couple parents who've gotten surveys in this school district. I think that was pretty common practice for a while. These surveys included questions about same-sex unions, religious affiliation, gender identity, race, ethnicity, asking whether a school is a safe place for students' race or ethnic group, whether adults in your school are fair in dealing with your particular racial or ethnic group, and whether adults in your school are fair in dealing with people not in your racial or ethnic group. 3 years later, the Department of Education, with some prodding from a law firm, finally made a ruling on this, and it says here, secured an important victory for the parents of Cedar Grove. They decided Cedar Grove not only violated it, but when they were probing into the personal lives of parents, they didn't provide enough an opportunity to opt out of the survey and enough background verbiage so they know that they weren't compelled in any way to fulfill the survey. I'll also mention that in addition to the sex behavior, attitudes, and political affiliations, they also address social emotional learning activities, which says that covering any method of obtaining information, including a group activity not directly related to academic instruction, that's designed to elicit information about attitudes, habits, traits, opinions, beliefs, or feelings, and any activity involved the planned systematic use of methods or techniques that are not related to academic instruction, designed to affect behavioral, emotional, or attitudinal characteristics of an individual or group. So this was struck down and deemed improper for Cedar Grove. Will that have any effect? Has that already been on your agenda to discuss and to see if you have to adjust what you do concerning surveys? Question number one.
Okay. We'll let you continue.
Okay. And a familiar theme that I brought up on numerous occasions. Europe is abandoning the gender affirmation model. They did not find that the benefits outweighed the danger of puberty blocking, of stunting the physiological development, blocking the endocrine system from its normal function, did damage to bone development, brain development, and that they did not see any real benefits in the gender-affirming model. A German study recently concluded that 60% of children abandon in 5 years their feelings of not being comfortable. You know, I'm not like the other boys, I'm not like the other girls. And they abandon those feelings. So why put them in jeopardy? Physical, permanent medicalization. Old Bridge just recently turned and rescinded policy 5756. More and more districts, now that they know that that policy is indeed not mandatory, and this was brought out by the assistant deputy or the deputy attorney general of New Jersey. Why are you holding to that policy? And it is a policy that also does make it child-centered, where they can socially transition in school, basically have teachers lie and keep that a secret from parents. Why would you hold on to that policy? That's question number 2. And I think I'll stand on that for now. Thank you.
Okay. Your first question concerning surveying and the DOE ruling. I will first talk to Doug. Do you have were you familiar with this ruling here?
Yeah, the Cedar Grove ruling, basically what that found, the Department of Education, when they issued that, is that this law about surveys and parent rights and the steps that school districts have to take to comply with these rules, they haven't changed. What the finding was in the Cedar Grove case was that Cedar Grove was not abiding by that. I have found over my career with working with school districts across the state is that not every school district is aware. To the Mr. Lund's question about whether that'll change practices. I mean, we could certainly talk with the administration if we've never had any complaints that in the 17 years I've been working with you guys about improper surveys here. But if there's any questions from the administration, certainly we'll work with them. But the rules haven't changed. This law has been in place for quite a long time. It sets forth if the school district is going to do a student survey about a litany of topics, that has to be opt-in rather than opt-out. The survey has to be available for parent review before it is issued to kids. There's a whole process to it. That does not apply to literally every survey. There's a list of topics of which, if it touches upon them in any way, shape, or form, it has to follow these rules. So the issue in Cedar Grove was after these parents filed a complaint, the department found that Cedar Grove did not comply with that with at least one, if not a number of surveys. So the rules haven't changed. My understanding is the district is currently compliant with those rules, but if there's a question about any particular survey, you all have my number.
Okay, great. And I'll just say, as board president, Dr. Massimino, I know we do student surveys and parental surveys. So if in the event you guys ever have any questions, we have a outstanding legal representation here, and you seem to be attuned to what's going on. So do school districts often ask you for advice when doing surveys?
Yeah, we do get occasionally. I mean, generally speaking, the surveys that school districts are doing in terms of climate aren't looking at the type of things that is covered by the statute. However, there are, not everyone, if everyone was aware of every single law and regulation that governs school districts, I think your heads would explode. So there are times where some people might overstep. I've not had that issue here in Woodbridge School District. The kinds of questionnaires you've been putting out are not the things that are covered by that specific statute.
Sure. Okay, great. And then Mr. Lund, you had asked about policy 5756, which this board has held on to, if you will, and I will speak on behalf of myself. I've been chair of policy and planning committee before. There has not been a push by any member to rescind it, and that's current policy. Doug or Mr. Silvestro, I apologize.
It's okay.
Can you speak to any of the statewide movement on this, or any current practice or guidance from the Attorney General's office or DOE relative to policy 5756?
Certainly, as Mr. Lund correctly noted, it is not legally mandated. I know there was some confusion when a lot of districts started adopting that policy that, some of the policy companies that districts work with had labeled it mandated. It is not mandated. It is recommended by the Department of Education. And the reason why it is recommended is that while state law does not get into the level of detail that the policy does about how students who identify as transgender or transitioning or any of those kind of topics, how to deal with them on a day-to-day basis, which is what your policy does, state law does protect through the New Jersey law against discrimination. You cannot discriminate against students based on their gender identity or expression. That is protected by state law. What the purpose of the policy is to do is to give guidance to not just families and kids, but mostly your staff in if there is a transgender student issue in schools, how do we respond to that in compliance with the law against discrimination? The policy is based off of guidance issued by the Attorney General's office and the Department of Education to ensure that your actions are compliant with the state's interpretation of its law against discrimination. So there are districts that are currently in litigation with the state about whether the recommendations from the Attorney General's office comply with the LAD or if they can modify the policy. You are not required to have it. The reason, again, why it's recommendation is even without the policy, it doesn't make students who identify as transgender go away. You're still going to have questions about how you handle those student situations. So without the policy, I think the only person that makes out is my office because you'll be calling me a lot more.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lynn. Yeah. Are there any other comments or questions from the public? Seeing none. The chair will entertain a motion to
So
adjourn.
motion.
Okay, do I have a second? I have a motion by Mr. Treebwasser, seconded by Mr. Delapietro. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Meeting is adjourned.